I grew up on the edge of Ossipee, near a stretch of railroad that hadn't carried a train in decades. The tracks were old, rusty, and mostly swallowed by the woods, but everyone in town knew their history. Back in the early 1900s, they'd used this line to transport lumber from a dense northern forest down to the mills and sawyards near the lakes. Rumor had it that in the 1930s, a horrific accident left the tracks cursed. A collision of two steam engines had killed half the crew, and both locomotives were supposedly never rebuilt. The tracks have been abandoned ever since, left to rot and be reclaimed by moss, saplings, and weeds. I'd always been drawn to that stretch of railroad. As a kid, I'd peek down over the overgrown tracks and imagine that trains would be chugging through the fog. Ghost trains, maybe. But I never thought I'd actually hear one. It started small, days before the real terror. At first, I noticed the faint smell of smoke, coal smoke, drifting through the woods near my backyard. Odd, since the nearest operating railroad was miles away. And they didn't even operate steam anymore. That was in the 50s. Now it was just a small freight. Then came the creaks and groans, metal on metal, soft at first, but unmistakable. Then it would get stranger. Near the tracks, well, my house is directly next to the tracks. With some studded trees, and right behind it is the tracks. The leaves would rustle when there was no wind. My flagpole would go crazy, even though it was as calm as a daisy. Shadows would flicker between the trees at the edge of my vision. And then I heard it. A steam whistle. Sharp, shrill, and piercing. I froze on my porch, heart hammering. The whistle sounded far away at first, but like it was coming from beyond the ridge in the woods. But then it repeated, louder and closer, and I swore I could have seen a headlight flicker between the trees. Over the next few days, I couldn't shake it. I'd hear the whistle at night, sometimes 2, 3 times in a row. Lights, small, glowing orange, would blink between the trees along the track. Sometimes they were red, sometimes they were green. My dog wouldn't go near the edge of the woods, growling low, first standing on edge. Even my friends from town know something off, but they charged after my attitude. I had to see it. I had to know. Late one afternoon, I slipped into the woods. The air was cold, damp, with fallen leaves. Mist curled around my boots. A heavy snowfall just came the day before, so it was blanketed with snow. It was getting dark, too. The tracks were appeared before me, rusty and bent, weeds curling around the rails. My chest tightened as I stepped into the first sleeper, half expecting the ground to swallow me. And then it came. At first it was only sound. Distant whistle, growl of metal, a low rumble and maybe ground tremble. And then light. A faint yellow headlight between the trees ahead of the tracks. In the black night, with the snow on the ground and the fog in the distance. I squinted, hard hammering, and then I saw it. The thing. Before it even time to react, it came roaring down the abandoned tracks, faster than any train of a time stripping with him. Steven Smith billowing into the clear air. I turned forward, pressing the engine. The car was blazing, only like a yellow shadows and silhouette. I was barely able to make out the road. Now, I'm a little bit of a train nerd, but it looks like one of those old Pacific locomotives from the 1910s. I only saw one coach, and it looked like Pullman. Well, it read Pullman on the coach in black lettering, which was weird, because no coach ever had black lettering on it. And within seconds, it was gone. The air vibrated as it was passing, leaves swirling into spirals, branches snapped as if trying to escape it. Out of shock, I stumbled backwards, tripped over roots in the snow. Eventually, the train passed. I saw its smoke in the distance as the light on the observation car, what I think was observation car, I could barely tell, got smaller, until it faded away into darkness, leaving me standing there on the snow-covered train tracks, horrified. I stayed in my house for hours afterwards, trying to make Since what I had seen, the tracks behind me were silent, old, abandoned. But it was only a matter of time before it came back. I tried convincing my friends, but they thought I was going crazy. They thought I was just going mad because it was too cold. But I swear, every night since I hear it again, faint at first, always distance, the whistle cuts through the fog, comes from the abandoned railroad in the woods. And I know one day I'll see it again. The ghost train racing down the tracks. Too fast to look at, too terrifying to ignore. I've tried to find it, I promise. But every single time, it's been nothing but silence. And I feel like the ghost train will soon die out, along with the reason why it haunts those tracks.